Good evening, folks. Welcome back to another Monday night live stream. How many times have I said that now? So, how's everybody doing? Looks like the chat's been nice and lively tonight. So, we've got plenty of you in already. Let's have a quick look and see who we've got as well. For those first time you're tuning in, thank you very much for coming in this evening. As you can see behind me, had a little bit of an update with the background there to kind of show off some of the stuff that I'm playing more regularly now. But yeah, tonight's live chat is based around the fact that the new expansion for Warcry, which is Monsters and Mercenaries, went up for pre-order on Saturday. It's out for to buy in store or for deliveries this Saturday coming. And we talked about it last week, and we were saying, is it too fast? Is it kind of too much too fast? And we had a bit of a chat about that. If you haven't seen that, if you fancy having an hour and a half, kind of 2 hours, sitting painting at some point this week, go back and check it out. But tonight, the difference is we've now seen what's in the book. We know what it's about. We know what the allies are. We know all of the different things, especially from the Guerrilla Miniature Games review. They obviously got the book early and they gave us all a chance to see exactly what's in there. And after seeing that video, I think this really does map out a really, really bright future for Warcry. And I'm going to tell you why I think that in a bit. So that's the subject for tonight. I also want to touch on the fact that we found out this week that the Shadespire of Underworld's Shadespire will be rotated out from that game as well. So I've got some kind of thoughts about that as well. So we'll chat about that. And I want to chat about anything else you want to chat about. Tell me what games you're playing. Tell me what gaming news you've seen recently that you're excited about. So, yeah, let's very quickly have a look into the chat. So, Peter Nicholas was in it nice and early a couple of hours ago. He said, Monsters and Mercenaries now. I didn't finish my Legions of Nagash warband yet. You got to get your painting socks on, mate. Get up and get done. Busey was in as well there. Different Gear TV. He said, not even in the first one in the chat there. It's going to be a good show as always. I hope so, mate. I always enjoy these shows. They've been getting a pretty... lively's not the right word, but they've been getting busy. They've been getting busy. Loads of chat, loads of stuff to talk about. Hasn't hurt the fact that Warcry kind of seems to be releasing something every couple of weeks. Keeps me giving me loads of stuff to talk about as well. VJ saying good morning all. Morning to you, VJ. Hope you're very well, buddy. Stuart Noble is saying morning and evening as well. Paul Palms is in saying he hopes everyone's well. VJ's asking how everyone is. Paul was asking about quick unrelated question. Does it hurt getting shot with an airsoft pellet? I answered, yes, it does. I used to do quite a bit of airsoft previously. Originally that's what my YouTube channel was going to be about. Those little plastic sort of BB pellets sting like mad when they hit you. They come out of those guns with quite a bit of force, and if you get kind of hit on the fleshy bits, it'll sting a bit and it'll leave a bruise. But if you get hit on things like you get hit on your knuckles or you get hit on your ears and stuff, it stings like mad. It doesn't half hurt. And they definitely go fast enough that if you're not wearing a face guard, you can lose a tooth. I've seen 2 people lose teeth playing airsoft. So yeah, it's quite aggressive. Christian's in as well. Good evening, Christian. How you doing, mate? You're saying even the BlackJackers, and hope you all had a great weekend. Julian Anchors is in as well. Good evening, Julian. He's just going to pop the kettle on. Don't start without me. Sorry, buddy, if you're not back. Aggression is in, saying good evening from T-side as well. We've got Al Cluley in, saying best thing about Mondays is the live chat. Cheers, buddy. Thank you. Where are we at? I just saw Steve Evans there before I jumped off the top of my chat there. So Steve Evans is in as well. Pete Smith's in. He's saying good evening. I'm forced to watch the show. You're not forced, mate. Forced to watch the show on his phone. He's currently in Newcastle, 4 hours away from his home in Dundee. If I'd known you were in Newcastle, mate, you should have given me a shout. You could have come and done the live show with me. Let's have a look who else we've got. Pete Nicholas is back there as well, saying he's been forced to watch it. Millennium Falcon's in. Tim Cafferty's in. Al Crabby's in. Paul M's in. Richard. Aminus Oculus. Craig Lowther. Mark Berracloth. Juan is in as well. Jason Collins is in. Michael Marines. So many of you folks in tonight. Good evening to all of you, by the way. I'm just trying to catch up on everybody's bits and pieces. James Zom is in. He says, hey, Andy, glad to finally catch a few minutes of live chat. Thanks for coming in, buddy. Phil Wilkinson's in, hoping everybody is well too. Busey saying, looks like you got some fancy new neon lighting on them games. Just thought I'd try and jazz it up a little bit, really. Just got my little thing that lets me change the colours and stuff. But red's on brand. I thought we'll stick with red. Green Tree's in as well. Good evening, Green Tree. Rob's in as well, all the way from the States. Good evening, Rob. Hope you're well, buddy. Cardos Dogforge is in, saying hope everyone's doing well. Gary Powell says he still hasn't got Warcry. Wait until his painting mountain decreases. We've all got one of them painting mountains, mate. He says he's painting some undead, some bolt action British, and some other random bits and pieces. It's nice to kind of, when I hear people kind of use this as a bit of a podcast to kind of sit and paint to, and then if there's something kind of crops up in the chat, they'll nip in and sort of and ask a question or give a comment or an opinion or something. It's quite cool that people can kind of use that for that kind of stuff. Craig Lowther saying he's excited about Judge Dredd coming out. Not long now, mate. Jamie's in as well. Says I'll read, Jamie. How you doing, mate? We've got Devon in as well. Says Aeronautica Imperialis. What's your thoughts? So when I first saw it announced, I thought, not really my kind of thing. I'm not that interested in it. I don't play kind of. I'm not as invested in the 40k universe to really kind of understand where that timeline is for Aeronautica Imperialis. And I thought I'd just kind of give it a wide berth. The weekend it went up for pre-order, I realised it was only like sort of 40 quid or 45 quid. And I thought, is it worth it for that? Is it worth taking a punt on it? And then I decided, I talked myself out of it. No, I don't need it. It's one of them games I'll probably play once, twice at best. I've got other air combat games. I've got X-Wing. I've got Blood Red Skies. I probably don't need it. So I passed on it and I haven't pre-ordered it and I haven't bought it. However, I have watched some videos since then. The ships are bigger than I thought they were and they look pretty cool just for painting. And it looked a bit more interesting, I think, than I thought it was. So if I go through a bit of a lull where I've kind of got nothing to paint or I want a little bit of a break from Warcry maybe, who knows, I might pick it up in the future. But at the minute, I've kind of give it a bit of a wide berth. And I saw a lot of comments online at the weekend about how people were complaining it's not really a full game, like there's no cards in there for the ships. There's a paper mat in there rather than a cardboard sort of board. But I guess what they've done is they've brought it in at a really kind of affordable price. And if you get into it and you want to push the boat out and get all the extras, then I guess you can get them. I'm starting to get that games work mentality. I think after I got kind of a little bit kind of, I was going to say scared off, but a little bit kind of sort of stunned by the releases coming out for Kill Team. I think I've got my head around it now and I understand what they're trying to do now, I think. And agree with it or not agree with it, I think they've pitched Aeronautica Imperialis exactly where it should be pitched, as a really kind of cheap to get into game rather than bringing out another £100 box set with all of those different things in it and a few extra ships and extra cards and fancy mats and all that kind of stuff. If they put it in at 100 quid, I think it would have flopped. So I think they've probably done the right thing, but I'm not sure the game itself's for me at the minute. Also, he didn't order the where was that? Thank God I didn't order some Shades by War bands. I've still got some, mate. I've not even taken out the box, unfortunately. I kind of wasn't playing them. By the time I bought them and went to get round to them, I hadn't played it. I just had a first super chat of the night there as well. Thank you very much, Jimmy. Much appreciated. Really is very kind of you. Jesper's in as well. Good evening, Jesper. He said that he said everything for Underworlds, but Warcry completely took over, and now I have no interest in Underworlds. Remind me on later on, I'm going to touch on that, because I read some comments on a Facebook group today, an Underworlds Facebook group, that I wasn't sure whether it was a very isolated opinion, but you've kind of backed up a little bit about what they said. So we'll come on to that when I start talking about the Shadespire rotation out and stuff. Andy Nuttall says, I'm actually here for a live stream. Congrats, Andy. Welcome aboard. Voctor's in as well. Says, greetings from Newfoundland. Steve's cracking on with more of those Basileans. Yeah, you're smashing them, mate. You're getting through them. Crony is in as well. Says, evening all. What's the crack? Good evening, mate. We're talking about monsters and mercenaries and why I think it bodes really well for the future of Warcry. Robertson, he's starting Lord of the Rings all over again. I saw you'd been kind of comparing the old rulebook with the new one, mate, and you didn't see a lot of difference in there. Henry Mendez is in as well. He is just in time for a drive to pick up his sons. William Falcon saying he hasn't watched in ages. Shame on you, mate, but welcome back. Cardos says, I hope you had a great weekend. I did, thanks, mate. I did quite a bit this weekend, actually. I had a bit of a gaming day on Saturday. I went to a mate's house. It was 5 of us all together, and we kind of played a little bit of Warcry, played some Mario Kart, and played Rhino Hero and a bit of Double. Had a few beers, had a barbecue, went off to the pub later on, kind of talked AOS and kind of talked geeky stuff all night. So that was my Saturday pretty much. That was pretty good. And then on Sunday, I went with my wife and my little boy. We went down to the beach, took him to play Dinosaur Crazy Golf. There's a kind of like a dino, like a Jurassic Park crazy golf place outside. Weather was quite nice as well, so we went and did that. And then they had a really nice kind of food festival on the coast as well. So we went and had a bit of food and had a nice little kind of day out with the family. So yeah, fab weekend. Thanks for asking. Glenn's in as well tonight. Hello, Glenn. Thordlum is in, says evening. Blizz Az is in, saying yo 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 and a bottle of super glue. PMC's in there and talking about paintballing as well. Tim Kelly, how you doing, fella? Are you away tonight? Are you home tonight? Peter saying, remember, if you're enjoying the chat, a thumbs up helps Andy. It certainly does. It just kind of, it tells YouTube people are kind of interacting with it. That's what it does. Honza's in as well, says even from the Czech Republic. Julian's painting his Untamed stuff. We've got Andy Nuttall painting some Gaslands. Beauty saying it's even got a remote control. Different colour each week. Yeah, I kind of, I'm just kind of looking behind me now to see whether I can, you can kind of change the colours and stuff on them, but yeah, I think I'm going to stick with the red. The red feels like Warcry. It feels like BlackJack. We got Chris Silato there as well. Just wanted to say keep up the great work. Thank you very much, Chris. Do I recognise that name from the by the same token? Is that where I remember that name from? Let me know if it is, buddy. We've got Andy Smith, Ian Gray's in. Roxanne says evening all Walking Dead scenery for him or for her. Sorry, shouldn't presume anything. Craig Notman's in. Paulie P. 2+ Tough. Hello, Doug. How are you, mate? Jamie's saying whinging crybabies, it's 40 quid, what do they want a full game? I think the problem is, mate, is that this is where we get this kind of conflict with a lot of GW stuff, is that they have a massive fan base of their games and their world and their universe and stuff. So when they release something that's maybe not aimed at that target market, it's aimed at maybe bringing somebody new into the game or somebody from a different game system into the GW world, people feel a bit kind of put out. And when they release a rule set that's maybe not quite as kind of crunchy or as kind of as sort of ultra thematic, they get a little bit kind of upset because it's not aimed exactly at them. But it's like that whole kind of leaky bucket thing, isn't it? As long as you're bringing in more new people into the area, into the kind of gaming area, than people leaving it through those holes in the bottom of the bucket because they're not happy, then it's a kind of it's a win-win sort of situation, I guess. But yeah, some people are not happy about it. Don't buy it if you're not happy. Will C says the best thing in 8mm is Nicolas Cage. Aeronautica is a pass. We got Tony Howell as well. Hello, buddy. He says hey from Hornsea. He's just got his youngest settled, so he's in for the big boy and girl chat. Yeah, Jamie's saying like the Grandmaster Edition. I think that's kind of it. I think they've got a Grandmaster Edition, really, because if you look on the Games Workshop website, there's a package where you buy all the extra bits, and if you want to spend £110 or whatever, it's all there for you. It's just that people would rather pay £110 and have it all in one box than pay £110 and get a 40 quid box and the extra bits, because it's that mentality of, well, they should have just put it in the box kind of thing. It's weird, isn't it? Mark SG as well is saying morning. Well, it is here. He's saying it's the same scale as Adeptus Titanicus. I'm not sure if there is something to that, other than the fact maybe you can use buildings and stuff just to thematically make the board look good. Because as far as I'm aware, and I could be completely wrong here, they're completely different timelines, I think, those two games. So I've been told, I believe. Marcus Hunter's in as well. He says, how's it going, geezer? Pretty good, man. He says, basing up with 1,000 point of nids, so your show is nicely timed. Vormwood is in as well. Tim Caffrey saying he loves +2+2 videos. James Sullivan saying good evening. He's checking in from Dallas, Texas. And where we are. Andy said he's running his Warcry event in Aldershot this Saturday. Andy, if Aldershot wasn't so bloody far away, mate, I would have come down and played. I've just signed up for the Warhammer World Tournament in December. December the 15th, I think it is. So I'm looking forward to that one. Michael Marine says he's just finished painting his Untamed Beasts. So that's me kind of caught up on the chat now. I can kind of have a bit of a chat with you now. So the subject for tonight, as I mentioned, is Monsters and Mercenaries is out now. Well, it's pre-order now, but we know what's in there. If you haven't seen it, I do recommend go over check out Ash Barker's video on Guerrilla Miniature Games. It's about an hour long. It does go into quite a lot of detail. He almost shows the entire book, page by page, goes through lots of different stats as well. So you might want to skip some of it if you're just kind of wanting to pick around it. But because of that, I feel like I've seen enough that I'll feel a bit more kind of educated to talk about it on a live stream tonight. And the reason why I really believe that this kind of sets the stall out for the future of Warcry is for a few different reasons. So one of it is the fact that the monsters side of it are optional. One thing people were worried about was, is this going to screw up match play? Is it going to add extra rules? Are we going to be able to take the monsters in match play? All those kind of things. The monsters, you can use them in match play if you want to, if that's what the tournament is, for example, if everybody's using them or whatever it is. However, the monsters are primarily for campaigns and for narrative play. And they're not that kind of overpowered. Yes, they're beasts and they're going to be hard to take down. But in a game that generally lasts 3 to 4 turns, they're not so powerful that you're basically just going to be kind of hitting them and nothing happens, essentially. So that was quite reassuring. I think they have themed the beasts as well. So from being able to kind of bring in them, you can bring them in as thralls as part of your campaign stories as well. So they're themed. So there's a death beast, a destruction beast, order, and death. So that's quite cool as well. But I like the fact that what they've done with the first half of this book is they've created a really thematic kind of monster hunting storyline for you to play out. And like I said before, it's completely optional. If you don't want to play that, if you're still playing your narrative campaigns from the core set, just play that. This book is available digitally as well. So that even if it goes out of print, don't worry about it. The digital versions will still be there. I don't envision it going out of print, but if that's something that worries you, the digital versions are there as well. It costs £15 at full RRP, so it's not exactly going to break the bank in comparison to some other kind of expansions for things like EOS or for, like if you think about kind of what they call like the battle tomes and things being about 25 quid, something like that. It's not that expensive in the grand scheme of things. So the price isn't too bad, and it is a really kind of exciting narrative stories. I like how they've brought in sort of map layouts as well for using the new terrain packs. Again, it's optional. If you don't have them terrain packs, don't worry about it. Use something else. But I like what they've done with that. That was kind of one half of it. The other half of the book now is focused on the ally side, the mercenaries. And again, one of the worries for everybody was, you've only just getting the core rule book. I'm really worried about kind of they're going to mess about with it. I've only had my first few games. I don't want this game to get bloated with like sort of lots of rules and stuff. I hope it doesn't overpower the game. I hope it doesn't take the points cost up to 1,500 or 2,000 points. And essentially what they've done is they've brought in, there is 40, say 40 or 50. I think it's, let's say 50. I think there's 50 allies you can choose from that are then split up amongst the 4 different factions, if you like. So there's so many you can take for order, so many for destruction, so many for death, so many for chaos. And essentially, they just slot into your 1,000-point warband. So you can recruit 1 in, and they're roughly costed somewhere between about 250 and 350 points off the top of my head. I think, let's just say 300 to 350 points around that time. So they're up there with things like the Iron Golem's Ogre Breacher. They have that kind of a stat line, so they're not so overpowered that they're absolutely breaking the game. they're just giving you a bit of flavour. So if you're getting into Warcry like I have, where I've bought all 6 of the original kind of the Chaos factions, I haven't doubled up on boxes. I like the fact there's about 1,000 points in a box, but it doesn't give me a lot of options for list building, of which I'm not a big fan of list building personally. I'd much rather somebody just said to me, use them models, and I can just have fun playing kind of thing. But what it does is it means I can maybe bring one of the allies in and maybe take a couple of the little kind of the plains runner type things, the grunts out of it. And it just gives me some options to mix it up. Just by adding in one model, you can just change how the faction plays. If I haven't got a lot of ranged kind of combat in there, let's bring an ally in with a bit of ranged. If I've got a lot of ranged stuff and I haven't got anything that's a bit of a heavy hitter up close, let's bring an ally in that does that. And essentially, it means that if I want to play with allies and you don't, we're still just playing 1,000 points. It's still sort of balanced out that 1,000 points versus 1,000 points should be relatively balanced. You'll still have all of the kind of the terrain layout, the twists, the win conditions, then the deployment. You'll still have all of that stuff to kind of contend with. So there's nothing to say that your ally's going to come on first turn. You might not come on till second turn or third turn. There's still all of that to kind of come into play. But what it means is that they haven't turned the game upside down by bringing in some options. And when I say options, those options are available to everybody. So the game hasn't got bloated, it's just got more choice now. So if you choose to stick with the starter sort of set, you'll choose to stick with just the core rulebook and you don't want, by the expansion, you're not being left behind. You don't have to choose to use any of that. If you want to expand your narrative experience and you want to hunt monsters and you want to bring monsters into your campaigns and you want a whole different campaign storyline to do, if you want to bring allies into your stories and your campaigns, I think you can recruit one ally for every I forget what the term is now, but for every kind of area that you kind of dominate, you can bring one in for each of them. There's stories in there where it pushes the points level up to kind of 1,500, 2,000 points. So you've got more stuff on the board, but that's all the narrative campaign type stuff. From a match player thing, there's no change to the rules stay as they are. We just now have the option to bring in 50 allies into those warbands. And it just gives us more choice. Again, as I said before, you don't want to buy it, you can still run your core set, your first wave warbands in kind of matched play. That'll still be 1,000 points versus 1,000 points. And in theory, until we play them, we won't know, but in theory, it should still be relatively balanced. And I think what that does is it really sets out Warcry as, first and foremost, a very narrative and campaign-focused game, which for me it's about telling exciting stories. Doug always says it's about having those moments that you talk about, those memorable moments. That's what gaming's about for me. It's not about being mega serious and kind of ultra competitive. If it was, I might play X-Wing, or I might play Guild Ball, or I might play can't even think now. I might play Shadespire, for example. If it was just about being ultra competitive, to hell with the story, I just want to win this game and I want to unlock the puzzle and win the game. There are games out there that do that. I want my games to be fun. I want them to be thematical. Is that even a word? Thematical? Yeah, I want them to be thematical. I want them to be interesting. I want them to be fun. And I want to leave that game with a story. So, for example, there was a couple of guys at the club playing Blood Bowl last week, and they were having a league game. And I forget, one was a Halfling warband, I think. I forget what the other one was. It was 2-2. I think the one player was winning 2-1. Was he winning 2-1? No, it was 2-2. And the last sort of action of the game, he threw a long bomb down the field and rolled a 6 to catch it. And it's like, that was that kind of ultimate moment. At that point, the guy playing says, oh, I forgot. I can roll to try and kind of intercept it. And he could intercept it on a 6. And he rolled a dice. The first dice rolled and it was cocked. So they picked it up and rolled it again. And he rolled a 6 as well. And he managed to catch the ball and stop the opponent winning the game on the last roll of the dice. That to me is just, it's a fantastic story. We were talking about it in the pub on Saturday night. Because it was such a one of those kind of like 1 in a million, not 1 in a million, but you know what I mean? Kind of one of those real outside chances that'll probably never happen. But they were laughing about it because it was such a kind of fun thing. That's what I want out of my games. I don't want to just kind of overanalyze them. So by the way they've brought in these rules, it's not creating rules bloat. It's just creating options, and even the word option, you don't have to use it. If you go to a tournament and it says Monsters and Mercenaries allies are available for this tournament and you don't have any, it doesn't matter, you still got a 1,000-point warband. You're not going to be sort of undone from that. So anyway, I'll talk about it a bit more. Let's go back to the chat and see what everyone's saying. Where are we at? Chris says, yes, that's correct. Hope you're enjoying the tokens. Couldn't resist dropping the current projects for Wings of Vengeance. I did play it edition, but really looking forward to this. Yes, so Chris and Simon from By the Same Token were chatting to me last week, and they sent me a selection of the Warcry tokens that they're doing. I'll have a video coming this week that shows you the tokens and lets you know what I think of them. Spoiler, I think they're awesome. But I will also be giving a set of tokens away as well, so stay tuned for that. Chris is saying he's painting the Imperials tonight. Andy's saying a mass Blackjack Warcry group at Warhammer World. Yeah, that would be pretty cool. If anybody else is going down to that tournament in December, do let me know. It'd be good to say hello. Furious George, good evening, mate. Seeing Andy's face looking a bit red tonight. Hope you're well. I think I always get a bit red with the lights and stuff in here. It gets a bit warm, so there's always that as well. But I'm just naturally a bit rosy cheeked, I think, as well, mate. We've got Wyanut, so he's checking in from Missouri. Good evening, buddy. Or what is it? Good afternoon for you, maybe. So he's just finished up his Splintered Fangs. Thanks for all your videos. You are welcome, mate. Thank you for watching. We've got Spect in as well. Black Cleric is in as well. He's saying he's sorry he's late to the chat. Thanks for maintaining the Warcry momentum. Helps me keep repainting the same metal on my iron golems as I struggle with the red contrast paints. It's funny because anybody who knows me who's watched any of my stuff will say I've always tried to cover lots of different things, and I've flitted around a bit and I've talked about games, and then the next week I'll talk about a different game. And that was kind of what I always envisioned the channel was going to be. My hobby was always kind of playing lots of different games with lots of different people. But once I've got Warcry, something clicked, and to be honest, it's pretty much all I've played since the game came out. And so that's what my videos are doing. And if Warcry continues for the next 3 years to be the only game I play, chances are the channel will stay with Warcry as well. If I start branching out into other games, they'll come on the channel too. So as for keeping the kind of Warcry momentum going, I'm just talking about a game I love. But just it's as simple as that, really. It's so yeah, I'm sure some of the other channels doing Warcry stuff will kind of dip away. It tends to happen when a new game comes out. Everybody makes lots of videos about it at the start and tries to kind of piggyback on a little bit of hype around the game, and then people kind of drift off and go and do other stuff. But as far as Warcry goes, it's a game I'm loving. I'm painting in. I can't stop there, kind of reading about stuff, reading up on the stories, kind of looking to see. I've even started to today while I was working, I was listening to some of Doug's old Warhammer Age of Sigmar lore videos, so I could hear about what the background was, about how where the story is and how we got to this point. I've never really been one that's been a big fan of lore, a big fan of lore in the past. But this is really kind of getting me in. It's starting to kind of hook me in. I love the stories that I'm reading, so yeah, I'll keep doing them as long as I'm enjoying them, mate. Tim saying he can't wait to use the Monsters and Mercenaries in the campaign that started at the local Warhammer store. Yeah, I think we'll start to see some really kind of nice looking boards and stuff. I know you've got to move the scenery around a little bit. If you see from Ash's video, you can see some of the deployment of the scenery. Obviously, you have to have a lot more space for those big monsters. But I've been trying some. I had them on the board last night, just trying some out and taking some pictures. You might have saw them today on the Facebook group. I've been trying the Joan of Arc miniatures. I'm saying miniatures; they're huge, the monsters, just to kind of see how they would look on the board. And I think for me, for my first few games, I'm probably just going to use those ones, I think. Jason saying, I think the lowest point ally you can take is 125. I believe it's the Grey Seer. He's super excited you can use his Silver Tower and Gore chosen models. Yeah, I must have missed the points cost, but the ones I saw and the ones I kind of remembered were around that kind of mid-tier. But my point's still the same thing. They're not suddenly these 500-point absolute beasts of models that basically means you have to take your warband up to 1500 points now, and it starts to bloat the game and starts to kind of pick it up. If you want to put them in, you're going to have to take something out. Yes, we're there saying pre-ordered the book instantly. I play Zeech, Legion of Nagash, Nighthaunt, and Gloomspite Git, plus Silver Tower, so I've got so many choices. Yeah, I've got quite a lot of the Silver Tower heroes. I've got the Silver Tower box and a lot of the heroes, additional ones that came along as well. And I've also got Gore Chosen as well. So I've got a nice little batch just sitting on my desk over there, just ready to get some paint on there. Al said at £15, if you have models knocking around, it's much cheaper option to fill out your warband than buying a second box of the same models and adds flavour. 100% this, mate, yeah. I mean, that's £15 retail price as well. I know it's a little bit more expensive over in the States and a bit more expensive again over in Australia. And that's all relative, though, to be fair. It's in line with the pricing of everything else around it. And yeah, if you've got a couple of those hero models, either from an old army, or maybe you'd pick up Gore Chosen, or even if you just want to kind of like pick one up, some of those heroes are about £12 up to £15, maybe £20 on the GW site. But if you're buying them from a local gaming store with maybe 10, 15, 20% discount, you're picking up that rule book for like £12 or something like that. You know, it's like the price of two White Dwarfs. It's not that bad, to be fair. Tony's saying he's working on a monthly budget and bought the book and a Chimera. I can just buy what I want later. That's what GW do. I had White Dwarf once upon a time. Not a fan. Love the models and use them in RPGs too. That's it, mate. If you can get double use out of stuff, so much the better. Excuse me, I have a drink. My throat's starting to dry out. Adam's saying, I think at this stage I'm staying with the core only. I've bought into other games too much already. That may change down the track. That's absolutely fine, mate. Honestly, you might find that you go to the club and somebody else has bought it. You might even have some old miniatures that you can kind of proxy in or whatever it is. The other thing I didn't mention is all of the stats for all of those allies are in the book as well. So if you buy the book, you get access to all of the stats for all of those allies and the stats for the monsters too. The only one I'm not sure about, and I don't know whether I missed this one, was the Chimera or Chimera. The one that's been reboxed comes with a stat card. And somebody mentioned a comment saying the Chimera stats weren't in the book. I'm not sure if that's the case. So I don't want to kind of like sort of set a grenade away kind of thing there, but I'd have to double check that one. Michael is saying, I think this is going to be fantastic expansion. Recently sold the majority of Bloodbound Corn Army, but only kept a few heroes. Now I can actually get them to the table again. It's fantastic, mate. Loads of people are saying the same things about people who used to play fantasy back in the day and have all the kind of big monsters and stuff that they never get to the table anymore. The kind of the Hydras and the what they call the Terrorgeists and that kind of stuff. They can get them all back to the table now. Paul Shorten's in as well. Good evening, Paul. You commented on one of my videos last week, and I haven't had a chance to reply to you yet. And I saw you've joined the Facebook group today as well. So congratulations, mate. Thank you for congratulations. Thank you very much is what I meant to say. Thanks for joining the group. I also think I saw you'd commented on the Guerrilla Miniature Games video saying you're going to the Warhammer event in December as well. So I'll see you there, mate. He's saying, yep, he's spending the day assembling Warcry. He's flying to the Warhammer World Warcry in December. See you there. Definitely will then, mate. Make sure that you give me a shout. Then if you're flying there, mate, you've obviously come for a bit of a journey somewhere. Make sure that you let me know, mate, and I'll definitely make a point of coming and saying hi. Andy Nuttall says, give me them tokens. They're awesome, mate, honestly. So I'm going to go off track here. I know I'm going to make a video about it, but let me just give you the quick kind of like 2-minute pitch. The tokens are acrylic tokens. The engraving quality is fantastic. There's choices of colours as well that you have to select, and they're double-sided as well. And I don't think maybe I'm kind of being a bit limited, but I've not seen a lot of double-sided engraved acrylic tokens. These ones are very, very good, really good quality. So yeah, watch out for the video coming. Tim saying he thinks that Warcry would have many of those moments. The last 40 game I played was miserably unfun. I think some of them could be to do with like the people you're playing or the kind of the armies you're playing as well. I did have a chat with somebody at the weekend who was saying he played a game of 40k and pretty much had his butt handed to him. Wasn't a very fun game. Didn't really kind of know. I think it was more that the army he had maybe wasn't kind of top tier, so he went away and started researching kind of what were the better armies. And then he ends up going to kind of going down this rabbit hole of like, why am I playing this? Am I playing this to win, or am I playing this to have fun? So yeah, that was a whole different tact. Mark is saying, where can we get those tokens? If you have a look on Etsy, the guys have a store on there which is buy the same token. If you on Facebook and Instagram as well, they're on both of those. I think they're on Twitter too. I'll drop a lot of links into the video that's coming later this week. But yeah, you'll be able to buy them there. Aggression says, any details about Judge Dredd game? Love the character and world. Tried to run the RPG many years ago and painted the out of print Foundry miniatures. I've not met. I went to see the guys at Warlord earlier on this year, and their in-house painters were painting the Judge Dredd miniatures at the time, and they looked fantastic. The sculpts looked fantastic, and obviously the studio paint jobs looked amazing. What they told me at the time was that basically it's quite similar in concept to Strontium Dog. So if you've played that, I think the basic game will be quite similar. But it'll obviously have been kind of streamlined and tweaked and tidied up and that kind of stuff as well. But timing wise, I've got no information, mate. Andy says, Warcry had the same effect on me, got back into the painting mindset. It completely kind of switched me, mate. Honestly, I've been in a bit of a painting lull, really. And I think it was because I wasn't really painting stuff. I wasn't painting stuff. Oh, sorry, I was painting stuff that I didn't really love. So therefore, I kind of wasn't really loving the painting experience. Here I'm sitting listening to kind of to podcasts for Warcry while I'm sitting painting my stuff. I'm listening to Doug's Law videos. I'm kind of watching people's battle reports. It's the first time in such a long time that I've just kind of jumped deep into one game system and surrounded myself in the hobby. And it helps with Games Workshop stuff that, one, they're popular, so there's a lot of content and things out there. And two, there's a lot of information around them. So the kind of the Mortal Realms stories, if you like, around that, there's a lot of stuff to go away and listen to. I can go and get a Mortal Realms kind of Age of Sigmar audio book to listen to while I'm driving. I can listen to Age of Sigmar podcasts that talk about the kind of the world. If anybody listens to the Mortal Realms podcast, they've just started doing a Dogs of Warcry specific Warcry podcast. They've done their first episode, which is awesome, and they've got a few spin-off shows on their standard Mortal Realms podcast as well. The most recent one today is kind of a bit of a book review of the Warcry anthology. So I can recommend both of those. They're worth checking out as well. But yeah, it is the first time in such a long time that I've just kind of dove in and surrounded myself with the world around the game while I'm enjoying painting and all that kind of stuff. And I can't really put my finger on it. I don't know why it's been this and it hasn't been something else. Maybe the other side of it is the community that's sprung up around Warcry has been really, really fun as well. Really kind of just really welcoming. And I've not necessarily seen that with a lot of other GW communities. I've seen it with like Mantic groups and stuff. Some of the Mantic community are quite welcoming. Games like Kings of War are really welcoming to people. So I'm not trying to kind of like sort of diss any of that stuff. It's just a lot smaller. And normally what happens is when you get to a big audience, you know, the more people they are, the more people that will maybe not quite so welcome comes in. But this one seems to have been pretty cool so far. Douglas is in as well. He's been watching on his ITV, being quiet, but hello, buddy. Thanks very much. Tim says, what's the Warcry storybook like? It's really, really good, mate. Honestly, I'm really enjoying it. I'm about halfway through it now. There's 6 stories. I think I've read 3 of them. First 2 are the Unmade and the Cypher Lords. I think the third one is the Untamed Beasts. It just kind of expands out a little bit on it almost just like the Unmade, for example. You think of them as the kind of, you know, they're this weird kind of cult where they cut their faces off, they cut their limbs off. They're just there to inflict pain and to absorb pain, and you think, oh, they're absolute nut jobs kind of thing. And then you read this story, you almost kind of root for them. The story is them basically going on this kind of like sort of adventure, this mission, this. I don't want to kind of spoil it too much, so I'm skirting around it. They go off on this quest, if you like, and you're almost kind of rooting for them to get there in the end. So the stories are really well written, the ones I've read so far. And if you're interested in more of the background, I would wholeheartedly recommend the book. Again, I've not even reading. It sounds really weird, but even reading something I don't tend to do a lot of these days. I don't tend to find time to sit and just read a book. Do a lot of audio books while I'm driving, or even just when I'm kind of lying in bed on a night time, just kind of drifting off to sleep and stuff. But this has made me actually kind of sit down, have a cup of coffee, find myself half hour of kind of quiet time, and sit and read a book. And even that's given me energy back into my hobby as well, because I'm actually taking time out to just sit and have kind of half an hour's rest, really. It's really good. Pete says, I like the fact the Warcry expansion appears to keep the game balance, like one player using a monster or mercenary against the core warband, unlike the Kill Team expansions. Yeah, so a lot of the monster expansion sort of side of things is one player plays the monster, the other person plays a warband. And almost at that, it's when you're doing it that kind of asymmetrical, it doesn't really matter who wins. It's the person whose warband it is, it's part of their narrative, it's part of their campaign, and the other person is kind of helping them out by playing the monster and playing out that story on the battlefield. I think that's really cool. Looking at Artie saying he's pre-ordered the book but haven't done so for the other stuff yet. I'll see what is released next. I didn't pre-order the Chimera, as I didn't think I'd need the monsters just yet. But I did pre-order the terrain set as well, just because I've absolutely loved painting all of the terrain. So yeah, why not? Jesper saying the Gobblepalooza is below 100. Yeah, I would imagine they're pretty much quite low. It'd be interesting to see what they do though, and what they bring to the game at that kind of point cost. Tony saying he agrees with Pete Smith there as well. Jason says, any specific monster or ally you're looking forward to playing the most? Allies wise, I've got a lot of Chaos allies, and to be fair, I've got the 6 Chaos warbands as well. I haven't bought or put together any of the original AOS factions. So at this point in time, it's the Chaos ones that kind of appeal to me. I've got the kind of the four Khorne champions. I'm just kind of looking over there where they are at the minute. I've got like a Tzeentch, like Sorcerer. There's some kind of beast thing. I can't quite see which one it is there. There is the Dark Oath champion as well. So I've got those kind of ones. I'm just looking forward to seeing what they do to mix up the warbands. Yeah, it's going to be fun, mate. Monsters wise, I'm not really getting stuck into the campaigns yet as much as I really enjoy them. I don't really have one regular opponent. I kind of play one-off games against multiple different people, really. But my sons are coming over this weekend, and I'm hoping to try and play through a few games of a campaign this weekend. So, Douglas is saying, totally agree, Andy. Games captured my imagination, and everyone I've introduced to it love it. I demoed the game at the weekend for 2 guys. So one guy, both guys play AOS currently, play quite a lot of Necromunda, and one of them was saying that I'm really interested to kind of just give it a try. I want to see what it's about. Not really sure if it's for me, but I'll give it a go. So I took them through like a game, and you could see them kind of, considering it was the first time they played, neither of them knew the rules. I talked them through the rules as we were going. They were both trying to work out tactics on the fly. They were trying to see how can I get the treasure back from that model. If that, like, how much time have I got left? Have I got enough movement? If I use my quads, if I use my triples, what can I do? Am I better off using doubles and trying to steal initiative? They were trying to kind of work through all of the different options on the first game they played, rather than just trying to get their head around the rules. And both of them finished the game, said that they really enjoyed it, and that they'd probably go on. One of them said he was definitely going to go out and pick up the rule book, and the other one said he would definitely play it again as well. So it just feels like, again, that people's thought of this being it's dead simple rule set. What do you mean you only roll 1 dice and that's it, and I can't save it, and I can't do this and I can't do that? That seems to go out the window once they actually play it. The amount of people that criticize it without a game seems to be what kind of gives it, like, not that it's got a bad name, but you know what I mean. It seems to be that's what people complain about. Once people try it, I think they really are impressed. Tony's saying, plays for fun all the way. No problem with the competitive people as long as they're clear about their intent, so we have fair matchups. Yeah, and that's the same for most games, really. Except what I tend to find in the bigger army scale games is that I find trying to find narrative, more relaxed, friendly games just harder. I think when people put that much time and effort into building up like a 2,000 point army, they want to win. Excuse me. They want to win. They want to get something out of it. They want to go to tournaments and kind of and use this big sort of army that they've put together. So they tend to be more sort of tipped over into matched play kind of mindset than they do about kind of casual mindset. And that's what's put me off some of the bigger games, things like 40k and AOS at the minute. I might go back to them at some point, who knows, but that's what's always kind of pushed me away, is that actually that feeling of just rolling dice and having a laugh and telling a story. I don't seem to be able to get that with the bigger games because people have put so much time and effort into getting those armies together. They want to win. They want to win. Paul saying, when you starting your live painting streams? Yeah, so for anybody that's kind of might have saw the comment, I put a question out there saying, would people be interested just kind of tuning in to paint along? If I'm sitting doing some painting and I switch the cameras on, kind of show you what I'm doing, we can chat about some stuff as I'm going. Just have a bit of a kind of, if I'm sitting here painting anywhere, why not switch the camera on and make it a bit of a kind of a painting sort of group, if you like. To be honest, mate, I'm not planning on really kind of fixing them as any kind of time schedules or anything like that. It'll be more ad hoc, I think, but I will give people a bit of notice. But this week's a bit busy. I'm away overnight tomorrow night with work. I'm out all day at the meeting. I'm away overnight. I'm busy on Wednesday. I might do something Wednesday night because I think my wife is away with work. Thursday I'm back to Manchester again. What am I doing Friday? Friday I'm doing something as well. I can't remember what it is. Kids are over at the weekend as well. So I don't know if it's going to be this week that I'll start them. But potentially Wednesday, mate, I might try and do one. Glenn Griffin is saying, evening, BlackJack is just on the way home from playing his first 2 games of Warcry. Welcome to the clan, buddy. What do you think of it? What factions did you play? What were your general thoughts? Flip Movie Maker's in as well. He says, speed painting the Unmade on Friday night. Saturday morning, got to play his first game on Sunday. That's another thing I love about this game. 9 models, you don't have to paint them to kind of like Golden Demon winning standard. Just get a bit of paint on them, get them on the table. Contrast paints, I've completely changed my opinion on them. When I first tried them, I wasn't particularly happy. Now I've used them. If used in the right way, they can dramatically kind of speed up some of the bits of jobs that would have traditionally took a bit longer, and mixed in with standard painting methods, look awesome. So yeah, I'm a big convert to contrast stuff. Now, I'm not suggesting you just get the model and just slap on one thick coat and then slap on another thick coat of a different colour somewhere else. You still have to have some kind of level of brush control with them. But they give some fantastic effects. And being able to get them on really quickly and get them onto the table for like that, start them one day, get them onto the gaming table 2 days later, fully painted. That's awesome. Tim says, sounds cracking, we'll get an Audible hopefully. Yeah, I've looked for it, mate. It's not available on Audible just yet. It's available on iTunes as a digital book. It's available on Amazon as digital as well. And I think it's only available as a hardback at the moment as well. But yeah, it's a really, really good book. Tim Cafferty saying he recommends the anthology too. He's just started it and it's great. The White Whale says Sigmarines are too strong. I've heard this, but then I've also heard other people struggling with them. So I think it probably depends a lot upon what mission you get, what win condition, what battlefield layout you get. Depends upon who you're playing against. I think there's a number of different things in there, but I think time will tell. And if they need to be tweaked, they'll be tweaked. Let's have a look as well. Cardos is saying, yeah, more content, please. I'd love to make more content, mate. Absolutely love to smash it out there, but honestly, it's just time. It's time to be able to make it, mate. As I've mentioned many times, I've got a full-time job. This is not my job. This is my hobby, and I would love to be able to put more time into it. I literally put all the time I have into it now, really. Otherwise, you'd see videos 5 days a week. VG says, happy with the start of the Discord. Will be good to see it build as Patreons increase. Yes, so for everybody, I do have a Patreon. And what we started from this week or from last week is we started a Discord channel as well. So that Patreon, that Discord channel is open for Patreons, and it's also open for anybody that is a YouTube member. So if you see anybody with their name in green here, with a little kind of BlackJack Legacy logo beside it, they are YouTube members. They pay a fee for that. if you're a YouTube member or you're a Patreon, you can get access to the private Discord server. If you don't want to do that, that's absolutely fine as well. There's a Facebook group you can come in and chat to people. But the Discord server is being more kind of, because it's a bit of a smaller group, it's a bit more conversational. It's a lot easier to have a conversation and a chat with people rather than getting lost in multiple different posts on Facebook. And yeah, it's been early days, but it seems to be going quite well at the minute. If anybody who is a Patreon and hasn't seen the link in the Patreon posts, or if you haven't seen the link in the YouTube member section here on YouTube as well, just drop me a message and I'll point you in the right direction. Where are we up to? Douglas there is saying, if anything, I found I'm not interested in the other new GW game, the flying game, the one which I forget. Are you interested in their other new offerings? I mentioned this earlier on, Doug. I'm not that kind of hung up on the Aeronautica Imperialis. It's not really my kind of game, so I've not really dove in. I'm looking to see what Beastgrave brings in for Underworlds. If I like the models, I might buy the odd warband or something. But I take it one game at a time. I'm loving Warcry. I'm loving what's coming with it. I don't feel the need to kind of jump into another game at the minute, which is very much unlike me, to be fair. Animus is saying the problem with 40k is every player's competitive junkies. That's why I quit playing and just collect 40k minis. I think you find this with a lot of large scale games. I wouldn't say they're all kind of competitive junkies, but when you spend hundreds and hundreds of pounds building an army and hours and weeks and months and years painting it up, and you get it to the table and you get walloped, you get beat every single week, there's not a lot of fun in that. So the idea of having a very kind of narrative game when you've spent that much money and time getting it to the table, it can wear a bit thin, I suppose, unless you are with a group of people who want to play out the Horus Heresy, they want to play out the storyline, they want to play out a battle from a certain kind of book or a certain timeline. Unless you're part of a group that does that, you're probably gonna come up against sort of competitive players. And then when you get into the kind of tournament scene, there is a whole different level there again. People getting tabled turn one and before they've even had a chance to do anything because they don't know what the latest meta is and all that kind of stuff. I just think with skirmish games where they're over with a bit quicker and you can paint up multiple models very quickly, you tend to have lots of different warbands. So if you get beat with one sort of warband this week, you play with something else the next week and you'll try something different. And if all it takes to change up your army is to bring in one of the allies, you'll spend £15 and you'll bring in a new ally or something like that. I just think skirmish games and smaller scale games whilst they can be very competitive, the pain of losing maybe isn't as bad. So people tend to be more about telling the story, like I said before. Tony saying, in your own time, buddy, don't have to be a regular thing, just when time allows. Yeah, that's definitely it, mate. It's more just a case of if I'm going to sit and paint anyway, then why not let's all kind of hang out and have a chat. I don't expect them to be as busy as these chats get, but yeah, it'd be cool just to hang out for a bit. Paul saying he missed that. Thanks for the heads up. No worries, buddy. The White Whale says literally just picked up the box of Splintered Fangs, going for 4 warbands to play with some newer players to serve as an introduction into wargaming and the hobby in general. I think this is a really, really good. I think it's a really good game for new hobbyists as well because the rules themselves are kind of pretty straightforward. The tactics are definitely in how you apply the different options. Douglas is asking for the Discord link. If you, Doug, if you either go into the Patreon group, you'll see it there, or if you go into the membership group here on YouTube, you'll see it there as well, mate. Paul says, why not? What was it? Glenn saying it was great. Played a 3-player game in the first, ended in a draw with me and one of the other players. Won the second 2-player game with my Cypher Lords, thanks to a cheeky teleport. Nicely done, man. Paul says, why not use Twitch for paint and stream? I had thought about that, mate, about having sort of saving Twitch for painting and then it doesn't really disrupt this. I guess just because my audience, if you like, are kind of like the community is around YouTube, and I've never really. It'll be like kind of starting again. I think with the painting stuff over there, I don't know whether people would kind of. I don't know whether people would go over there. Maybe that's the next question. Am I better off putting the painting on Twitch and keeping the videos to YouTube? Does it really matter? Are people bothered? Juan says, how do we become YouTube members? So to become a member, Juan, if you see at the bottom of the chat, you'll see a little box. No, you won't see a little box. You can, if you go to my YouTube channel, there'll be a button that says join. You click on that. That's how you become a YouTube member. White Whale says, is it true that there'll be a Beast of Chaos warband coming out soon? Would be great as I have 3,000 points at Beastmen. There's a Beast of Chaos rune mark symbol in the new book, which would suggest that that's kind of preempted. So there's 3 rune marks that we've not seen so far. There's an Ever-Chosen rune mark, there's a Beast of Chaos, and there is a Stormcast warrior symbol, which is basically the standard Stormcast with hammers and sort of swords and stuff, rather than the Vanguard ones with the bows. So I would assume that'll be the next warbands that we see kind of either cards or point costs for or new releases for. Nagaroth is in and says, good evening and greetings from Hanover. First time live and tonight is entertaining as ever. Thank you very much, buddy. Thanks for coming into the chat and thanks for the kind words. Roxanne saying, having to Google what Discord actually is. I'm not out of touch. You are. To be honest, mate, I had to take a bit of persuading to do it because Discord's not something I even know about. Think of Discord like a chat room from many, many years ago. It's private access, so you can only come in with an invite, which means that it doesn't get flooded with like lots of different people. And it's basically just like a kind of like just people just chatting conversations, sharing what they're up to, sharing photographs, chatting about the weather, chatting about holidays, whatever it is, it's more conversational rather than Facebook where you kind of have different threads for different questions, if you like. It's more just like kind of gaming mates hanging out, if you like, more like a WhatsApp chat type thing. Honza says, I think the problem with large scale games is also the length of the game. You're absolutely bang on there, mate, as well. If you're in the middle of a 2 or 3 hour game, and you can tell after a couple of hours that like this is not going your way and there's no way back, but you feel obliged to play it out, that's not fun either, is it? Honza saying, it happened to me many times. At a certain point in the game, I knew there's no way I'm going to win this anymore, guys. So I hadn't read that comment there. Yes, exactly, mate. So with smaller scale games, the game time is short. You can throw in another game. It's one of the things with Warcry that I like, the fact that because there are some kind of janky matchups when you get those different cards pulled out for deployment and for win conditions. If it's bad, just stop the game, just re-rack, start again, play a different one. Because games are over with 45 minutes, an hour, that kind of thing. So it's not like a kind of like a full day or a full evening's commitment once you've set on a path down that game. Just stop it if it's not fun. Stop playing it and start a new one. Peter saying he's hoping he's enjoying it live. Help yourself to snacks. Tim saying with smaller games, I guess it's harder to spam the best units. There is that as well, to be fair. I think one thing we're seeing is because the AOS factions, people are list building, I think, with the AOS factions because they're using models they've already got, or they're buying a few different box sets and then they're using them to list build. I think that's why they feel slightly more powerful. What people are doing with the Chaos Warbands, the new ones, is they're buying a box and they're just playing it. Some people are starting to list build, so people are using like 2 of the Rock Tusk Prowlers, using 2 of those. People are trying to use 2 Ogre Breaches. People are trying out some different things. They're trying to use more Plains Runners and kind of beef it up that way. But the vast majority of people are buying 1 box and done. So those all seem to balance against each other. AOS factions all seem to balance against each other, but I think there's a bit of a mismatch between AOS factions and the Chaos factions at the minute. But I think that is purely down to list building. Once there's more options for Chaos, or once people decide they want to buy 2 boxes to get extra ones and try switching models in and out, I think we'll see that starting to kind of drift a little bit more. Andy saying, you're spot on with being a good gateway game. I've done loads of demo games for people at my shop, some of whom this was their first war game, and they always love it. Yeah, personally speaking, everybody I've shown enjoyed it. I know the game isn't for everybody, but I guess the people I game with, who I've shown it to, are of a kind of similar mindset to I am. So they're probably more disposed to enjoy it, if you like. Paulson, I think these days people jump between YouTube, Twitch, Netflix, whatever. I know I do. Yeah, they probably do, mate, actually. And maybe it's something to look into, and then it keeps the two things quite sort of separate, if you like. Rob saying the painting stream sounds good. Jason said, I also highly recommend the anthology. It's very good so far. And agrees with the assessment of Stormcast being overpowered. Totally depends on the victory conditions. We've got Walter Black. Good evening, Walter. So did I miss anything, or did they not release cards for all the mercs in the new book? Seems like a missed opportunity, as I really prefer playing with the cards. No, you didn't miss it, mate. They haven't released the cards for the mercenaries. They are in the book, and I've got kind of mixed feelings about it as well. I much prefer the cards myself as well, and I'd like to have the card for my mercenary alongside the rest of my warband rather than having it in the book. In reality, what I'll do is I'll either photocopy it, or people online will create kind of digital versions of them, and I'll print one of those off or something. Or even if I just write them down on a piece of paper what the stats are. If they released a card box with the 50 cards in, the 50 stat cards, I'd probably buy it. But at least we've got the option, I guess. At least we're not having to buy 50 different allies to see what the 50 different allies do. At least we get to see them, and the same thing with the monsters as well. So I've kind of got pros and cons about it. If the cards ever become available, I'll probably buy them. But in the short term, I'm sure I'll just photocopy the book or something, or and make my own cards for those kind of like 5 or 6 allies that I might use. Paulson VG at Discord invite from Patreon app is telling me invite expired. Let me check that after the stream, mate, because I put it on that it wouldn't expire. So let me double check it, mate, and I'll set it up again. Henry saying he got to play 3 games yesterday, and his buddy played his first and second game. He loved it. The third game, his girlfriend asked to play it as her second game, and she enjoys it. That's cool, mate. It's good to see a mix of people trying the game out. Robert saying plans on getting Warcry, but not for a while. He's reading Lord of the Rings, always has been, but likes what he hears and sees of Warcry. Yeah, and I always want to stress that this is not a channel I'm trying to sell you Warcry. I'm just trying to tell you what I'm passionate about in my hobby, and it seems to be attracting other people who are also passionate about the same game. So yeah, don't let me kind of, if you're not on board with it, don't kind of let me convince you otherwise. If you're enjoying what you're playing. But yeah, it's just what I'm playing at the minute. But yeah, the Discord thing, that when you set up a link for it, there is an option to have it kind of so it only lasts for so long. But I'm pretty sure I didn't select that option. But let me check. I'll put a fresh link up again tonight for it. So how are we doing for time? I should have the 10 o'clock. So yes, we've been going about an hour now. How's everybody enjoying the chat tonight? I think we've got some good numbers in again tonight, as we have quite a lot recently. We've got about 100 people in a minute. It's been up about 110, 112 at one point. That's not bad, is it? That's not bad. BJ says he's been watching some bat reps. Gits on Squigs looks super powerful. It makes me smile. Paul says Andy only gets $5 from each Warcry sale. Wish I did, mate. I'd have quit my day job and been making Warcry videos from now on if that was the case. Wish I was getting $5. I wish I was getting 5 cents from every sale. That would have get me close. So I want to touch on now as well. I want to touch on Underworlds, as I mentioned briefly before, and about the rotation of Underworlds Shadespire out of the kind of the game from a competitive level. And I've kind of got mixed feelings about this as well. So for those that don't know, basically Underworld Shadespire was the first season, if you like. And when you buy a warband, if you like, you get some universal cards that are in there that can be used with any warband in the game, and you get some faction-specific cards that can be only used with that warband that you've purchased in that box. Second season, we saw Night Vault come in, which brought in some new warbands again, and some new universal cards, and some faction-specific cards, and also brought in magic. Now, there was quite a few complaints about some of the Season 1 cards not being worded very well. Being sometimes 2 cards were worded differently, but we're talking about the same effect. And if you watch Stormcast podcast, so you can either listen to it on iTunes or your podcast app, or you can watch it on YouTube, which Stormcast is the GW official Age of Sigmar podcast. They had a chat with Dave, I forget what his surname is now, the guy that basically designed Underworlds. And in that, he's quite frank and quite open and honest about the fact that he thought he knew how to write really good rules for cards, and he learned by the time he got out into the wide world that maybe some of his assumptions weren't quite right, and he had to kind of learn very quickly and get better fast. So I think that there's a common kind of agreement, if you like, that the first season of cards could be worded better. They're not overpowered or underpowered or any of that kind of stuff. There was just a bit of confusion about rules as written, if you like. So season 2 come around, brought in more stuff. Season 3 is about to come around now as well, which is the Beastgrave season. And I think off the top of my head, they normally have about 8 warbands a season. So that's 8 releases every season. And what they're doing now with the start of season 3 is they are rotating out the season 1 universal cards. So any cards you have from Shadespire, which can be used on any warband, they're being rotated out. Now, if those cards appear in Season 2 with exactly the same text, you'll still be able to use them, but you won't be able to use the ones that are exclusive to Season 1. They are, however, allowing you to use Season 1 warbands with the Season 1 faction-specific cards, and then you add in Season 2 and Season 3 universal cards, if you like. Now, this is the bit I'm not sure about, because I get what they're trying to do. They're doing the right thing by rotating out the cards that maybe break the game or maybe are a bit janky or are not worded very well. I get that they want to get them out of rotation. Got no problem with that. And if you don't play competitive, it makes no difference. Use whatever cards you want. If you do play competitive, you've got to get with the program. You've got to play that. It's the same if you play any card game. If you play Star Wars Destiny, if you play Magic the Gathering, there's seasonal rotations. That's just what happens. However, my concern is, if from a competitive point of view, that you'll be able to use Season 1 warbands with their faction cards in conjunction with Season 2 and Season 3 universal cards, but new players won't be able to buy the Season 1 warbands anymore, as they've been taken off the GW site. Now, if they're going to take them off sale, I'd rather they took Season 1 warbands out of rotation as well. Leave them in for just kind of casual play. Maybe even have the odd kind of like sort of tournament that says this tournament you can use Season 1 stuff. But one of the excuses is that it's hard for new people to get into the game because there's too much stuff to buy. There's too much kind of option, if you like. So they're trying to reset that by only having one full season plus the new seasons coming out. But if there is a combination, if you, for example, if the Sepulchral Guard end up being really powerful with a combination of Season 2 and Season 3 cards and start winning Grand Slams, there will be an outcry that new people can't buy that warband because it's not available anymore, and other people have an advantage because they already have it, and people are at a disadvantage because they didn't get in at the start. I can imagine that this might happen, and this is the way, from a purely competitive point of view, I think I'd rather have seen them rotate out the warbands as well. So, anybody play Shadespire? Anybody play Underworlds rather? Has anybody got any feelings about it? You know, bothered is it a game we've never played? We'll pop in the chat and see what people are saying. Peter's saying, who gets the other £95? VJ says, no biggie about the Underworlds. Frankly, the warbands and their cards are still playable. And frankly, I already quit Underworlds. I'm now only following Underworlds with regards to using the warbands in AOS or Warcry. Yes, but there saying, I love Shadespire for getting me into the hobby. Made me some good in real life friends, but wouldn't have met otherwise. Perfect gateway game for me when it came out. I love the game when it first came out because it wasn't kind of it wasn't overpowering at that point. There wasn't a lot of choice of warbands and a lot of choice of cards. It's like any card game basically. It gets out of control at some point. I mean, my local kind of group of guys, they pretty much just play with the decks that come with the warbands. Really, they're not really into sort of list building. They'll just play with whatever, really, and it's just a bit of fun. And they did say there was a guy once came round to play kind of in their group who was a bit more kind of knowledgeable about what he was doing, and he absolutely smashed everybody, and it wasn't that fun. But between them, because they're just playing with kind of like whatever comes in the pack, really, they're just having fun playing the game. And I guess that's really where I am. I'm just kind of conscious looking at the game and its future, having stuff that you can use partially but can't buy. Bit of a weird middle ground. Paulson, I thought was really impressive that they'd balanced Shades by a Nightfall Beastgrave and you could use them all together. Guess not. I think it's just there's too many cards, mate. It's like any of those card games. So that I thought they would probably have 3 seasons and then a rotation. So you were always playing from 3 seasons. I guess they're going to go with 2 seasons, basically. Well, and even then, there's only going to be a very short period of time where they go with 2 seasons, because at the end of season 3, that's when you'll have all of the cards, and then when season 4 starts, season 2 will drift out. So you'll only have a full season plus 2 releases, and then a full season plus 3 or 4 releases, kind of thing. BG says, "Oh God, GW competitive players and rules is written and rules is intended. It's painful." Yes, I remember having those conversations when I was doing rules videos for Shadespire. W. McCowsey saying belated good evening. Hello, fella. Paul saying get yourself on eBay. The problem then, mate, is then that pushes up those kind of exclusive warbands that you can't buy anymore, and people pay over the odds for stuff, and then that is just as bad, really. I'd rather they rotated them out completely and just went with 2 seasons worth of warbands and left Shadespire stuff just to kind of fun playing games, if you like. If it's about the competitive nature of it, then make a clean break and do it that way. Walter says, I play Underworlds, wasn't too pleased. It's never nice when a company says you can't play with your toys anymore. I guess that's why that's probably why they haven't rotated out the warband, because then you can play with your toys. Technically, you just need to buy season 2 and 3 cards to enable them to be used. I just think they could be kind of making a rod for their back, really, but I guess it's all in the scheme of trying to not make anything unusable, I guess. Honza saying Underworld is the main game now. I believe the rotation was done really well. I'm happy about it. About buying season 1 warbands, I guess there'll be plenty of them on eBay now, maybe for quite low prices. It'll be interesting to see whether they're for low prices, mate, because you can buy the warbands on the AOS on the GW site under the AOS factions. You just don't get any of their faction cards that you need to play them. That's a bit weird. Walter also bought quite a few warbands specifically for the cards in them, not so much because I like the models. But I do end up feeling a bit duped over those purchases. Yeah, I can get that. But again, I guess you could say that this is a card game. At least it's not a blind kind of like sort of sealed packs. And you know what cards you're getting when you buy them warbands. And everybody has equal opportunity to have all of the cards, if you like. Paul saying, I think it's a great game, but I'm not a competitive player. I'll continue to play it with have fun and collect what I can afford. Yeah, and I guess that's kind of where I am, really. I'll play just for fun, and I'll play with what I've got. And I might pick up season 3. I'm kind of interested to get back into it and give it a go, just purely for some extra Warcry models as well, and just have a bit of fun with local groups. But let's see what happens there. Alvaro is in as well. Good evening. Says, I only wish we had rules created for Gotrek in Warcry 2. I know he'd kill anything in the game, but man, I love dwarves. I'm kind of surprised they didn't bring him in as an ally, actually, and just have him like massively kind of 500 points or something like that. So it was purely thematic, purely story driven. Nobody would ever run him in a competitive list, a bit like the model is in AOS. I'm surprised they didn't give him a stat line, if you like. Peter saying the Honza didn't find any so far, but I'll keep looking. Zach's in as well. Good evening, Zach. He says, I play Morgau's Fiends exclusively. I have all the warbands up till now and the Shadespire starter. I can't say I don't feel a bit bitter about them being phased out. Yeah, I think it's a weird one because in a card game, I think people know things will get phased out by seasons. If you go to play Magic the Gathering, Yu-Gi-Oh, all those kind of things, everything gets phased out. Otherwise, the card pool just becomes too big to try and balance itself out. However, I think the I keep saying Shadespire, the Underworld's crowd are much probably more miniature gamers initially, and the idea of now seeing you can't play that anymore is a bit more alien to us as gamers, I think. So I'm not surprised people are a little bit miffed. In all honesty, is it the right thing to do? Yes, I think it is. You need to control these things so that you can't balance out sort of 500 cards, if you like, and the interactions between them. You will find sort of broken combinations, which is why they have a ban list. So it is technically the right thing to do from a competitive rule set, sort of competitive tournament game. But again, if you're playing casually with friends at the local store, whatever, just play what you want as long as everybody's up for it. Paul saying, I guess that makes sense. Otherwise, you'd have 100 warbands by season 10. It's not even it's not even the 100 warbands, mate. It's the fact that each of those warbands probably come with like 40 cards. So that would be like what's that, 4,000, 40,000 cards that you have to try and balance against each other and work out all those interactions in between them. So what they do is they limit the card pool to 2 seasons. So it is the right thing to do, but I'm just not sure why you wouldn't then phase out the warband as well at the same time, because now you're going to have to try and balance out. You're still going to have to try and balance out 100 warbands, but with a smaller card pool, and that's where it's going to get a bit junky. Gotrick will kill anything short of Sigmar and Nagash. I think I'd still like to kind of. I'm sure you could kind of. Somebody will do a fan made stat line for him for Warcry, no doubt. Rob saying, very good chat as always. Love the live chat when I can make it. Thanks, Robert. I'm really glad you could make it, buddy. Paul saying, I'm into season 3 because you know the starter set's going to be about 45 quid. I'd imagine so, mate. Alvaro says, yeah, I know, even though he might be indestructible, I'd have loved incorporating him into my narrative games. Yeah, and I'm all for it as well, mate, as well. I think, like I say, I think somebody will come up with a bit of a narrative, kind of like a fan-made list for him. Like, even if he was 500 points, even if he was 1,000 points on his own, it'd be kind of cool just to kind of run him, wouldn't it? Paul saying, I suppose it's like a modern video gaming when they turn off servers. I think it's how could I liken it? It's almost like, I guess if you think it's sometimes like games like League of Legends or something, I guess, or like Overwatch, those kind of competitive arena brawlers where they keep adding new characters in there. But imagine that they have to take some out because it just gets unwieldy and there's too much kind of like to try and balance between them. It's all about balance at the end of the day because it's a tournament game. It's competitive in its nature. And the more they have to try and balance lots and lots of cards, the less kind of possible it is to keep the game as balanced as possible. That's why they're trying to limit the pool of stuff, I guess. Yeah, Peter saying, do it anyway. 100% do it anyway. Yeah, definitely. Excuse me while I have a drink of my very now cold coffee, which is not very nice now. So what do people think we'll see in the future now for Warcry then? If this is a kind of a sample of what we'll see in the future, do we think that the game is just going to be basically more narrative storylines and more allies added to the list, more monsters maybe added, or do you think they'll take a bit of a complete left turn and maybe have a year down the line have a season 2 where it's set in a different part of the universe and we've got completely different warbands there? Because let's not forget that what we've seen at the minute is Warcry is set in the Bloodwind Spoils, which is the segment of land that is between the highway to the realm of metal and the highway to the realm of beasts, spreading out from the 8 points from basically where the Varan Spire is. There's that kind of wedge of area, and there's another 8 kind of dotted around that. Really, there's another 7, sorry, dotted around it. That's 7 or 8. There's more. So it's kind of, we've only seen a portion of it. It doesn't mean the rules will change, but it might create some very interesting warbands to come down the line. I'd like to see that kind of stuff. Thanks, guys. Saying, yo, good evening, mate. How you doing? Andy says, get a thermos. I normally drink it before it goes cold, mate. That's the thing. I'm still going to drink it as well because I'm thirsty. I haven't got any water with me tonight. Normally I drink it before it goes cold. Tony saying criminal. VJ saying more Skaven. I think we will definitely see Skaven in there as well. There's a Skaven rune symbol in the book for them, not as a warband, but as part of the allies. So it wouldn't surprise me if we see Skaven in there at some point. We know that from the thematic stories, Skaven always seem to kind of thwart the plans of Archeon when he's trying to kind of take over the universe. So it wouldn't, like, thematically, Skaven should be there really. What else is missing that we've not seen yet then? The new kind of ogres or whatever they're called now, they'll be coming soon. They haven't got a warband in there. I suppose there's quite a bit hasn't got one yet, hasn't there? Onza says, I believe the story of Warcry will evolve. Look at both AOS and Underworlds, their narrative evolves. We've seen something similar in Warcry, or maybe on a yearly basis. Yeah, I'd like to see almost a bit of a yearly update, this kind of stuff, even from a narrative point of view. So if you think about where Age of Sigmar was when it first started, with the introduction of kind of Sigmar coming back down, bringing down his Stormcast, sort of taking over at the end of the kind of the age of, was it the Age of Chaos, wasn't it? He took over at the end there and tried to kind of like bring in the Age of Sigmar, and then you have the what was it called? The Necroquake, where basically that was Archeon trying to kind of do his worst, and the Skaven getting in and screwing a few things up, and that was when the Nighthaunt were all basically kind of risen from their graves. It'll be interesting to see where they push the story. Henry saying dwarfs. I can't believe that we haven't seen any kind of Fire Slayers or any Dwarven in there yet. It wouldn't surprise me to see that kind of stuff. Do you think we'll see a lot more sort of brand new warbands as well? Because to see 6 so quickly with another 2 on the way, that'll take it up to 8. I'm surprised we've seen that many new warbands really. I mean, how many is there in Necromunda? I don't think there's that many in Necromunda, is there? Is there only 6 or 7 in Necromunda? I'd maybe like to see a bit more crossover with the Underworlds as well, to be able to use those miniatures as well. I'd like to see whether they could sort of repurpose some of those as so bring out a new Warcry warband and bring out a Shadespire, I say it all the time, an Underworlds warband at the same time, and be able to use the Underworlds one in Warcry as well. That would be quite cool. Walter says, I can see them going more competitive player with an arena-style symmetrical terrain box that's aimed at tournament player. You seem like they did with Kill Team Arena. So is there anybody here plays kind of competitive Kill Team? Are all of those tournaments now played on Kill Team Arena? Or do you still see the old kind of like the original terrain packs and stuff being used? Or is the game almost exclusively Kill Team Arena now? I'm not close enough to know whether that's the case or not. VJ saying it will be good to see Storm Vermin, Gutter Runners and Storm Fiends, Warlock Bombardiers, and it'll be interesting to see what they do with the last 2 Chaos Warbands. Yeah, it will be interesting to see what they do with that actually. Because it has to be the next release, doesn't it? Of all the stuff that's on the Warcry website at the minute, those, actually they're not even on there, I don't think. But they're certainly in the main rulebook. That's the only 2 things we've not seen yet. And then this new book gives us a glimpse of the Everchosen, the Beast of Chaos, and the Stormcast Warriors. So I assume we'll see card packs for those 3, but yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens with that one. And Paul says, VJ saying there, agreed, Andy, love to see more dual player Warcry Underworld warbands. It would certainly make sense if they're going to go to the trouble of sculpting stuff. Why not kind of have a little bit of crossover in there as well? Paul saying, I like those Underworld dwarfs. Yeah, I still got my Fire Slayers over there to be used. Walter says, also seems the Warband card packs were already removed from the website, so I'm not sure what to make of that. I don't think they've been removed, Walter. I think they're basically they've been sold out. I don't think they have any more to kind of send out, so maybe they sold better than was expected. Certainly with the Iron Jaws one, which is the first one to go out of stock, you didn't need to buy a lot to get an Iron Jaws warband. You could buy a box of Brute, or you could buy a box of Odd Boys, and so they were a relatively cheap warband to get. And I'm sure a lot of people probably already had them. A lot of people are using their Shadespire ones. So I'm sure somebody has told me that it's always been in the plan, and I'm not sure I've missed it somewhere, but that those card packs, those stat cards, would be available online digitally at some point. They would definitely be available digitally. So is it a big deal that they're kind of not available anymore? If you can get them elsewhere, that wouldn't be too bad. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. It wouldn't surprise me if they end up in a book at some point in the future. Maybe if the next expansion book maybe brings in another few warbands. Maybe it brings in the Ever Chosen and the Beast of Chaos and the new Stormcast one, and maybe they print them all in there as well. So who knows what they'll do with that, mate? But I wouldn't worry about it too much at this stage. I don't think it's a kind of like it's not as like signs that the game's going to be kind of like not reprinted or anything like that. I don't think. Carlos is saying, yeah, Underworld's dwarfs, they'll be cool. Hunter says, I wonder when the I'm going to try and butcher the name again. Is it Ossiarch Bone Reapers are released in October, November? Will they get a Warcry, a warband? It'd be wrong if they didn't, wouldn't it? Why would they not put a card pack together or put a kind of like an online war scroll type thing for them? Why would you not, to try and sell some more of your nice new models? Zingbo said, I don't play Kill Team competitively, but on a Discord server with several. Tournaments are currently using a mix of standard and arena terrain. I like the standard terrain. It looks much more thematic. It looks much nicer again, but I do get the benefit to having the arena stuff. Regis, I think they'll probably be announced at whatever the next big tournament or Games Day Warhammer World event is. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I'm not sure what's kind of left to come up now. Is there anything more this year? Are we getting to the end of kind of con season now? The event says, regarding the warband cards, my local game store were told by their supplier the product would not be restocked in its current form. Yeah, and I think that's probably the key, isn't it? They're not letting a lot out of the bag about it at the minute. They haven't come out and said this has been discontinued. It just says no longer available to order online, which means they're out of stock basically. But stores will still have stock in because they haven't gone out of stock yet. It doesn't make any sense at this stage to say if you haven't got the Iron Jaws cards, you can never play them. It doesn't make any sense. So the way they've put the stats in the latest book for the allies would maybe suggest to me that at some point in the future there'll be another book with all of the stats in, or they'll be available online. I would tend to think it might be a book with the stats in. And one of the things I remember reading, I remember listening to, is one of the things they do with AOS, with the General's Handbook, is they put the point costs in a separate book now, because that allows them more time to get all of the rules right and all of the layout and all of the kind of the match play stuff and all of the scenarios and all of that. And then quite late in the day, they can then print the second part, which has all of the points cost in it. And it wouldn't surprise me if that's exactly what they've done with the core book for this. They've intentionally left out all of the stats from the core book because that gave them more time to kind of play test and fine tune, and it was much quicker to print card packs than it was to print the rules in the book. With the expansion that we've just seen, they had more time to do that one, so they didn't have to have that book printed in advance too far ahead, so they had time to kind of play with the stats for the allies and the monsters and stuff. So it wouldn't surprise me if new warbands come with cards, but there'll be some kind of book at some point which has all of the kind of the AOS faction cards in them. Let's have a look. Henry saying, I hope Warcry does not go down the kill team arena route. I think for kind of fighting pits might be like a nice kind of scenario type thing, but I wouldn't like to see it go. I think the fact that the game uses a lot of height and elevation, and there's a lot of rules specifically about height, would suggest that it won't go that way, but who knows. I'll say as GW was so good at writing lore and background, I read a lot of sci-fi stuff, and they're not much better out there. It's an immersive in an immersive capacity. Can only imagine the Sigmar era stuff is just as good. The early stuff wasn't great, if I'm honest, mate. I remember reading some of it when I first played AOS, and it was a little bit poorly written, really. But it's been fleshed out a lot now. The story's moved on. It's got a bit darker now. It's not kind of high fantasy like fantasy used to be, if you like. It's not as grounded in like the real world as original fantasy was. This is more kind of very it's quite dark and quite gritty. It's almost, I know people kind of say this like it's a negative thing, but it is like a fantasy version of 40k because it's kind of set up in space and different worlds and all that kind of stuff. But I like it. I like where it's starting to get to. Henry said, I'm still waiting for an FAQ for anything Warcry. I think they just compile it all, mate. They want to make sure that they've got all those questions in. The game's not that old yet. They want to make sure everybody's kind of played through a lot of those different scenarios and see what crops up. They might even wait until the next warbands come out as well and compile it all then as well. All they're doing at the minute is just kind of pulling all those questions in. I don't know how long it normally takes them for an FAQ, but I'm not surprised we've not seen anything yet. And to be fair, there's not a lot needs FAQing in my opinion. Most people's complaints with the game is more to do with the fact that they don't really like some of the rules. They don't agree with them. It's not that they don't understand them. It's not that they're not clear. I think they don't like the answer they're getting, basically. Theven is saying, I guess that either they're making some kind of digital version or the cards will be changed in the promised FAQ. I don't think we'll see any cards changed in the FAQ. Not at all. Not unless they have an errata at some point, but FAQ is just answering questions, basically just clarifying people's concerns, I think. Al says, I can't see it happening. They seem to be grooming it as a pretty narrative game, and I think players like it that way. Seems to be the vibe in the community. Yeah, and I think it's helping the community to be quite a friendly one as well, and less about kind of uber competitive. Even saying there's a lot of warbands of abilities that are strictly worse versions of the universal ability. The lead designer tweeted that this was on their radar. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure that FAQ will change that though. There has to be an errata or an update at some point if that's the case. Peter Nicholas says he lives there. I'm not sure what that was about. Jason said, I'd like to see some type of AI rules for the monsters. Yeah, I think so as well. That would be cool to see. I don't think GW do a lot of like solo play stuff though, do they? I think the whole point of it is kind of encouraging you to play with other people. But so I'm not sure whether we'd see it, but we'll definitely see kind of like homebrew stuff, I think, coming through. Zingbo says, I wouldn't be surprised if Warcry supplement came out with an arena like tunnel fighting, introducing Skaven to the game. That could be interesting. I'll see it on their radar. Now that's interesting. And Jason says, Fireslayers versus Skaven, next starter set for Warcry. I think we'd see two brand new warbands. That's how they kind of fund the that's how they'd fund the tooling, the plastic tooling, wouldn't it, for new sculpts, because they know they'd sell a hell of a lot of both of those warbands because they sell them all in a starter set. That's why they always put loads of terrain in them as well, because that's how they can fund all that kind of stuff too. So we are just over the half-past mark now. VJ said, has anyone else seen the names of the two remaining Chaos Warbands? The two Chaos Warbands are the Scions of the Flame and the Spire Tyrants, is it? I think that's the two of them. That's the names of those two, mate. Yeah, Theven saying, thanks for clearing that out in my head. FAQ equals errata. FAQ is people saying, how does this rule work? And then them answering it and giving what they call the designer's notes, which is basically explains like, this is what they were thinking when they wrote it and this is how it's intended to work. Errata is when they basically completely change the way rules are written, or they change rules completely, or they change point costs. That's when they kind of have that, like, almost like the General's Handbook update. It wouldn't surprise me if maybe after 6 months or a year, or they kind of give it a bit of a point cost update thing. But yeah, the FAQ is just about answering people's kind of random questions about perfect examples of this are when you kind of summon back the dead skeletons. Do their classes being activated or not? That kind of stuff. That's a FAQ. It's not changing the rule, it's clarifying how a rule works. VJ Sim just came across a website listing of Spire Tyrants and Signs of the Flame. Yeah, that's the two of them. They're in the core rulebook as well. Actually tells you a little bit of story about both of them as well. So yeah, that's it then, buddy. I'm going to call it a night now. It's just after 10:30. Thank you everybody for coming in tonight. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please do click the subscribe button. If you're interested in supporting me and trying to help me get to a point where I can create more content as well, then please do check out my Patreons. And if you want to kind of hang out in the community as well, then check out the Facebook group. There are links to all of these things in the description of every single one of my videos. So thanks everyone for watching. Watch out for the token video that I'll be doing at some point when I get 5 minutes to make a video. 5 minutes, he says. When I get some time to make the video. And we'll do that as quickly as I can. And I'll see you all next Monday for another Monday night live stream. Thanks for watching.